The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. When a man chasing the American dream accidentally commits a murder, he tries to escape his past by changing his identity again and again and again. Heidelberg, Germany, 2004. Richmond Gruber, a smart, handsome, and ambitious young man, grows up poor, but his days are rich with American television. On his 24th birthday, he packs his bags and flies to the United States to pursue the American dream. Cox's Creek, Kentucky. Gruber's tourist visa allows him to stay in the country for just 2 months, but he wants to stay for good. He meets a local student, Virginia Potts, at the campus library. She's attractive, but looks lonely. Gruber introduces himself.
I'm Richmond, by the way.
Virginia.
1 month and 29 days later, they marry.
I do.
Richmond borrows money from Virginia and enrolls as a freshman at the college. Richmond, a finance major, and Virginia, a biology major, are volunteers for a nonprofit organization to protect the endangered American wolf. Richmond is the campus treasurer. But all is not as it seems.
Mr. Gruber, I need to talk to you.
While working in the library, Richmond is approached by the group's campus president, Don Spicer. Don tells Richmond that withdrawals of over $10,000 have been made from the group's account and are not backed up by expenses.
It's $10,000 missing from your account, and we need to find out why.
Don accuses Richmond of stealing the money. Richmond denies the allegations, and the conversation turns into an argument. Fed up, Don resolves to let the police decide Richmond's fate. But Richmond decides he can't allow this to happen.
Wait, President Spicer, wait!
Richmond grabs his money box and smashes it over Don's head, cracking his skull. Richmond is shocked by his actions, but soon realizes that he's dead.
Talk about your bad turn of events. This was a robbery that kind of turned into a murder, and once you've committed murder, there's no going back.
Richmond wonders if he can hide what he's done. He props up Don's body at a library desk and surrounds him with books. To any passers-by, it would appear that Don fell asleep studying.
This is interesting. Richmond isn't trying to hide the body. He's just trying to buy himself some time. He's got some time.
He then returns to his room, cleans up the evidence, packs his bags, and leaves town. On his way out of the dorm, he sends a text message to his wife and then throws away his phone. With the money he stole, he pays cash for a bus ticket west.
While Richmond is technically a fugitive, he's given authorities no reason to suspect him of anything. He just looks like a bum who's left his wife, and he's left no evidence.
Richmond, who spent thousands of hours watching American TV in the 90s, has arrived at the center of the entertainment industry.
Hi, I'm Rich Roberts.
He loses his German accent and begins introducing himself as Rich Roberts, an ex-Harvard law student who dropped out to pursue screenwriting. Rich applies for an entry-level job in the mailroom of a talent agency.
A lot of people, when they're trying to keep their identity a secret, move to a totally different kind of place. That's what Rich Roberts did. But he has to play by the rules. He still needs papers. What he does is he finds the name of a deceased child, a child who was born about the same time he was. Then he gets a copy of the birth certificate, and he uses that to get a new social security number. Rich even gets a driver's license so that when the talent agency runs a background on him, not only do all of his papers come up, but he comes up squeaky clean.
The mailroom job pays barely above minimum wage, and Rich is quickly burning through the money he stole.
Hi.
Eyeing a way out, at a work event, he meets a divorced 51-year-old veteran screenwriter, Denise Hawkins, and charms his way into her bed. Within a week, Rich moves out of a hostel and into Denise's beautiful Beverly Hills home.
Yeah, I was in Harvard Law.
He tells her all about his law school days and his childhood in rural Pennsylvania, including being pen pals with Francis Ford Coppola.
It's so awesome.
It's all a lie, of course, but he's really good at telling lies. All of these guys are. And they have no moral problem with doing it. It's just part of doing business.
I know. He's so fun. I'm so happy he's here.
Denise tells everyone that the talented young artist is simply renting a room at her house.
Mom, I'm home.
But her own son, John, suspects otherwise. John, a military intelligence officer in the Marines, has just arrived home for 2 weeks' leave, and he's not a fan of his mother's new house guest.
Not really. John Rich.
Rich.
He senses something flimsy about Rich's charming stories.
John's a sharp guy. In the service, you meet a lot of people, you see a lot of things, and your BS detector is at high gain.
His first night home, when John hears Rich sneak into his mother's bedroom, he becomes determined to stop the affair. The next day, John sneaks into Rich's rented room and opens the Harvard dropout's bags. He rifles through Rich's belongings and takes his tourist visa. He finds a journal with handwriting in German on some pages. John drops the notebook on top of the bag and leaves armed with information to confront this so-called Rich Roberts.
John isn't afraid of any confrontation, which is why when Rich returns to his room, he finds his bag unzipped and his notebook open.
John is having breakfast when Rich walks in and says hello to him in German.
Guten Morgen.
John does a double take. This is not what he expected. Probably didn't expect to have bratwurst for breakfast either.
Rich nonchalantly tells John that he studied abroad in Germany and fell in love with the language. But when John pulls out Rich's original German tourist visa, Rich stops smiling.
How do you explain this?
John tells Rich to leave immediately.
You need to get out of this house.
Richmond Gruber, an aspiring German immigrant, tries to achieve the American dream. But a school administrator, Don Spicer, discovers that Richmond has been stealing money from the organization. Richmond accidentally kills Don and leaves for Los Angeles. He poses as Rich Roberts and charms his way into the life of an alcoholic divorcee, Denise Hawkins. But Denise's son discovers some conflicting information.
Sorry we got off on the wrong foot, okay?
Yeah, me too.
Rich invites John to the backyard to try and smooth things out by talking guns and drinking beer. John seems hesitant but likes guns and beer too much. Rich drops a sleeping drug in his drink, and John passes out on the spot. In Denise's basement, Rich pulls out a chainsaw and does his best Leatherface impression. John, passed out from the rohypnol in his drink, is asleep on the floor. Rich takes him apart.
He'd already killed once, so he was willing to kill again. But in order to keep the ruse going, he had to eliminate evidence. What the genius didn't know is that when you use a chainsaw, you splatter blood and flesh on the floor, the walls, even the ceiling. While trying to eliminate evidence, he multiplied it 1,000 times.
After Rich has murdered John, he works at a furious pace to thoroughly clean up the basement and bury John's mutilated body in the backyard. Denise staggers home that night, and Rich is already in bed as if nothing has happened. Denise wakes him, and he gets up. The next morning, Rich is making breakfast for a hungover Denise.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
She wonders where her son John is. Rich informs her that after going out last night, John received a top secret directive from the Marines and had to leave right away. And it was hard to see him depart. Almost a year has passed and John Hawkins has not returned to his mother Denise like Rich told her he would. Rich has one more loose end to tie up. First, he quits his job and doesn't answer any more calls, texts, or emails. He plans to poison Denise by tainting her drink. Denise is at home drinking alone as usual. At this point, she has no idea what drink she's on. She starts to feel a little queasy and heads to the bathroom to throw up. She mistakenly slips and hits her head on the hard porcelain rim and passes away. Rich walks up to the house with a bottle of wine and the rohypnol. He smells something nasty in the air. He walks in and sees something he never expected. Denise is dead. Rich suddenly realizes his job is done here and slowly walks away.
Rich realizes Denise drinking herself to death has wrapped up a few loose ends. But he has to push the reset button now because there's another dead body in his life, which means a new name, a new location, a new job, and more.
Rich decides to take off in John's new car. He needs cash fast, and one way to do that is sell John's vehicle. Rich posts an ad to sell the car on some online classifieds, but decides he has only one option at this point, and that's to ditch the ride and leave.
Ditching the car is really the smartest and the only thing Rich can do, because a lot of people don't realize cars have their own fingerprints. It's called the vehicle identification number. And as soon as you enter that into computer databases, it tells you everything from the day it was built to the last owner.
Rich knows it's time to shift gears and start the next chapter in his life. Meanwhile, a reality TV house flipping show is filming a renovation of Denise Hawkins' home, except they don't say that the previous owner died there. The owner decides that he wants to install a brand new pool. During the renovation, he discovers the remains of a mutilated body. The authorities are not able to make an ID, but we know they're the remains of John Hawkins.
So now, Denise and her son John are the two roads that will take us to the true identity of Rich Roberts. But they're both dead. So we're left with no leads, no evidence, nothing that will tell us that Rich Roberts killed John and Denise.
The murderer shapeshifter, formerly known as Richmond Gruber, then Rich Roberts, has now taken the identity of a high roller professional poker player, Richard Regal.
I call.
His charm and attitude makes him appear as if he is perhaps from royalty and playing on an unlimited amount of funds.
Meanwhile, John Hawkins' abandoned car is found in the outskirts of Las Vegas. Authorities determined then that Rich Roberts is a person of interest in his disappearance. An all-points bulletin for Rich Roberts goes out to the Las Vegas police and all the regional authorities.
German immigrant Richmond Gruber is accused of stealing money and kills the accuser. He escapes to Los Angeles, changes his name to Rich Roberts, charms a wealthy alcoholic widow, and then kills her son, John. Rich then heads to Las Vegas for a new role as Richard Regal, but the law's catching on to his game. Investigators find Richard's address and are surprised to discover that such a popular high roller actually lives on the outskirts of town. They break in, but he's gone without a trace. 1 month later, Rich Regal has relocated and is now masquerading as Rick Kennedy. He claims to be a distant relative of the famed Kennedy clan. Rick meets and quickly proposes to a real estate mogul, Kelly Davis.
Rick is now on his fourth identity. Fourth. And here's the problem. You've got Joe Schmo turning to John Doe. Well, Joe Schmo doesn't have fingerprints on file, neither does John Doe. Ultimately, you have to find the original person.
Rick convinces Kelly to elope. He doesn't provide Kelly with much detail besides that most of his relatives have died or are too busy to attend a wedding. Kelly is okay with that, but she asks that Rick at least have a best man, so her dog Oliver fulfills the duty.
Come on, if you're getting married, that's something you gotta look into. But maybe Kelly was afraid of what she'd find out.
Kelly asks Rick to join her real estate empire. He does surprisingly well, and the empire grows. He also seems to enjoy his new life of luxury and hobnobbing with the Phoenix elite. Kelly gives birth to a son, Ricky. It is the first child for both.
Kelly is unwittingly living with a man who has murdered 2 people in cold blood, and now all he has to do is stay Rick Kennedy, and there's no reason for authorities to suspect him of anything.
Phoenix, Arizona, 2009. Rick leads a great life, making lots of money, but he doesn't know how to manage his good fortune and spends recklessly. Kelly hires a private investigator to look into Rick's life. The PIs uncover some troubling details about Rick. 1, he is not related to the Kennedys. He has never been to Harvard. And finally, he misappropriates funds, manipulates earnings, and writes off false expenses at Kelly's real estate agency, putting her company at risk of being audited and shut down.
Kelly needs to be very careful around Rick now, because while the PI has turned the information about Rick's shady dealings with her company, the PI hasn't turned the information about Rick being a serial killer.
In a letter, Kelly has laid out the grounds for a divorce. She says she intends to get full custody of Ricky and has decided to relocate to London, England. She also says that if he fights custody, she will file criminal charges about his fraudulent financial records at the firm.
This time, Rick has hit a new low. But it could have been worse. Kelly could have had him busted for a whole bunch of things, even though she didn't know the cold, hard truth about his past. And now, Rick can't even fight for custody of his son, because when you do that, you're giving people permission to look into your background. And if you looked into Rick's background, what would you find? Murder.
A year later, the divorce final, Rick faces a new harsh reality. He only gets to see his only son under court supervision 3 times a year. He spirals into a year-long depression.
At this point, Rick is at his most vulnerable point. Sociopaths never care about anything, and they don't know what to do when they do. And Rick wants his son back.
On a visit to Phoenix, Rick is ecstatic to see his son, even though a court supervisor is present. The two spend the afternoon playing sports and having a great time.
Daddy, I have already spent time with you.
But when Ricky Jr. is set to leave, Rick tells the court supervisor he needs to move something in the front seat. It's another ruse. Rick punches the supervisor and jumps into the driver's seat himself. When the supervisor comes around, he realizes Rick and Ricky are gone and immediately calls the police, who issue an Amber Alert. Rick Kennedy is a multiple identity shapeshifter who has assumed various personas over the years to protect the various murders and crimes he has committed. He has never been caught, but now is on the run. He's kidnapped his own son Ricky, but it's only a matter of time before Rick and Ricky are found.
Rick couldn't tie up this loose end, and his court supervisor was able to provide the car description, the license number, and most importantly, the identity of the kidnapper. Now, the only thing police have to ask is, where are they going?
Las Cruces, New Mexico. Rick doesn't get far. While getting gas, he is recognized immediately and arrested without incident. While Rick is in custody, investigators make some shocking discoveries. His fingerprints match that of a Richmond Gruber in Kentucky, tying him to the murder of a college administrator, Don Spicer. Police also match him as the missing suspect in the murder of John Hopkins over 7 years ago. The authorities charge the shapeshifter, known as Rick Kennedy, for kidnapping and aggravated assault, Richard Regal for using a false name and information used for criminal intent, Rich Roberts for murder, and Richmond Gruber for murder. He is sentenced to life in prison.
After years and years, the man originally known as Richmond Gruber is finally taken down for dozens and dozens and dozens of crimes. If it hadn't been for wanting to be with his son, he'd still be out there. Maybe not as rich, but he'd be free. Ironically, it was humanity that brought an inhuman shapeshifter to justice.
The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, when a bored housewife attempts to spice up her sex life by secretly having her new boy toy move into her walk-in closet, she gets way more than she bargained for. Roanoke, Virginia, 2011. Randy Roberts, 37, a mild-mannered small business owner looking for friendship and possibly love. Even though he's a button-up, slacks loafers kind of guy, he knows he has a lot to offer the right lady, and he's working hard at meeting her. After spending years singularly devoted to starting his own business, Randy's finally turning his focus to finding a wife. In hopes of improving his odds, Randy's joined several different online dating websites: Catch, Cinder, and one that cuts right to the chase, Let's Get Hitched. a very popular website for all types of ladies who have every detail of their dream wedding planned. Now they just need to find a groom. Randy dives right in and spends most of his nights combing through the profiles.
Within law enforcement, it's no secret that people who are late bloomers are more vulnerable to people who would do them harm, who are criminals, con men, and those who are less than trustworthy.
Meet Candace, 33. She's on the opposite end of the spectrum from Randy. She's often referred to as a social butterfly and has dated more than her fair share of men. But she can't quite seem to meet a good one, or at least one that isn't still in a garage band with his friends from high school. For the last 5 years, Candace has been struggling. She's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and takes several different antidepressant medications. Because of her condition, it's hard to find a full-time job. Candace delivers pizzas 3 days a week.
Hey, Randy.
Hey!
Candace has one really good tipper every Tuesday and Thursday, the polite, awkward man she only knows as Randy. At first, Candace doesn't really pay much attention to him, but the more she gets a look at his shy smile and coy side-eyed glances, she finds his fumbly flirting sweet, and all the attention gives a jolt to her self-esteem. Eventually, she finds herself dressing more and more provocatively on Tuesday and Thursday nights just to give him a thrill and make him blush.
Is that a heart? Oh my God, that's amazing!
Finally, one night, Randy musters up the courage to ask his pizza delivery goddess out.
Well, I was wondering if you might want to go out on a date with me.
I would love to.
She gladly accepts. Their first date is like a lightning strike to him. He crushes hard for her within the first hour. Candace has never been courted like this before and appreciates Randy showering her with constant attention. Two young lovers in a whirlwind romance. Candace accepts Randy's surprise marriage proposal.
I'm no relationship expert, but common sense would say it's probably wise to know somebody for a full 4 seasons before jumping into a permanent relationship with them. And it's probably likely that people who know Randy and Candace were not thrilled about how quickly they were jumping into theirs.
When the engagement's announced, Candace's best friend since childhood, Larry, is very concerned. Candace has been confiding in him that Randy's completely Dullsville and rather lackluster in the bedroom. As it turns out, people aren't too thrilled on Randy's side either. Randy comes from an old, well-to-do Roanoke family, and his mother never wanted to cut the cord. In fact, she and Randy talk every day at 1 p.m. without exception.
I'm ready for this.
Mournfully, his mother had been heard on more than one occasion confiding to her bridge friends that Candace is by no means a suitable wife for her son. Candace is a girl with a reputation.
Rumor has it that the ladies at the bridge game considered Candace to be well navigated. I love that term. It means she's been around the block.
Despite the naysayers, Candace and Randy tie the knot in a small ceremony at the county courthouse. Then they move into a new home in an affluent Roanoke neighborhood. Much to everyone's surprise, the couple work in Randy's hardware store together. They build a thriving business. The store requires all of Candace and Randy's time and energy, and before they know it, the couple has spent every minute living and working together for 10 years.
Well, did you set the alarm or not?
I
You know I'm gonna have to
Eventually,
go
the
back to
stress
store.
of owning and running a successful business and the strain of spending too much time together takes its toll on Candace and Randy's marriage. Randy likes quiet conversations, long walks on the beach, and is a Sunday night feet up on the coffee table video games kind of husband, something that's starting to repulse Candace.
Really?
She feels trapped in her marriage and longs for the carefree days of her youth spent with bad, broke musicians who smell of that seductive combination of sweat and cigarette smoke. Fed up and claustrophobic, Candace moves out and gets her own place.
Anyone who's been married for any length of time can tell you that couples who spend too much time together can start to get on each other's nerves, and that is the road to disaster and divorce. Oh, hey, I'm looking for one of these.
Over the next few months, Randy does his best to convince his wife to come home. On her part, Candace starts to realize life on her own again isn't quite as spectacular as she remembered. She also realizes that things about Randy aren't so bad, and that she actually really likes one thing in particular: his money. She makes up her mind to return home to her husband and to their somewhat blah but unfailingly steady and stable life. Then, one afternoon, a few months later, things take a dramatic turn. A frightened Candace frantically beats on her neighbor's door. When the woman answers, Candace pleads with her to call 911. Her husband, Randy, has just been murdered. Randy Roberts and Candace get married after a whirlwind courtship. After a decade together, the couple has hit a rough patch and decide to separate. Eventually, they reunite, and for a few short months, everything is fine. Trembling, Candace stands on the steps of her neighbor, begging the woman to call 911.
Randy has been murdered. Call.
She shockingly reveals that she has a jealous lover, Ricardo, who has just murdered her husband, Randy.
Call 911. Oh my God.
When a man is murdered in his home, 90% of the time, the wife is going to be your first suspect. So now the police have to begin evaluating the behavior and the actions of his wife.
Oh, here we go.
The police arrive at Randy and Candace's home and quickly notice things just aren't adding up. Randy Roberts' body is in a full state of rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis is the stiffening of the muscles in the body, making the body rigid. That means Randy's been dead somewhere between 14 and 18 hours, so it's not possible that he was just murdered.
The scene also looks staged. Randy's body is found stuffed in a bathtub, wrapped in a blanket, with his head covered with a white plastic convenience store bag. It seems to them it's supposed to indicate that he was strangled and suffocated to death. However, looking at the man's numerous wounds, it's pretty clear that Randy was bludgeoned to death.
With a number of wounds on the body, this is indicative of what we call overkill. And overkill is the continued assaulting of a body much beyond what is needed to cause death. And that's usually a sign of rage, anger, and betrayal.
Inside the closet a few feet away from the bathroom, police find an inexpensive black stiletto high heel covered in blood. To the police, it's pretty clear the stiletto is their murder weapon. Also, the sheets on the couple's bed have a story to tell of their own. They're in complete disarray, except for the very noticeable dried blood puddle left from the stab wounds that seem to match Randy's chest.
The location of a murder says so much about the crime. For instance, if the murder occurs in a bedroom, it's an indication that it could be two romantically involved people. If there's no robbery, it could simply be the settling of a personal grudge.
Candace Roberts' story has been pretty much blown to pieces by the evidence at the scene. So, the top two questions on the minds of investigators are: if Randy died the night before, what has Candace been doing the last 16 hours? A few months after Candace returned home, the couple had gone to downtown Roanoke to watch the fireworks on the 4th of July. After the show, Randy wanted to go home and turn in for the night. Excited by the spectacular show, Candace wanted to stay out late and hit up a few bars and party for the night.
Yes, see you in the morning. All right. Sleep good.
Bye.
Love you.
Randy begrudgingly accepts and goes home, leaving Candace by herself. Candace stumbles into a dirty dive bar on the outskirts of downtown. As she walks into the bar across the room, she locks eyes with an exotic stranger. The good-looking young man, Ricardo, is a day laborer from Mexico. He's also out on the town, hanging with a friend, and they've been celebrating and drinking all night. After several shots of liquid courage, Candace convinces the two young men to come with her to a seedy, pay-by-the-hour motel where they can all celebrate in private with a threesome.
What was Randy thinking? I mean, he left his wife all alone downtown so she could go binge drinking. I mean, the woman had bipolar disorder. She was prone to making irrational decisions, and she had no impulse control.
Candace and Ricardo start a torrid affair. It's invigorating and exciting, and they are almost inseparable. But Ricardo is homeless, and Candace can only think of one solution.
You need a place to stay. Ta-da!
In her master bedroom walk-in closet, Candace has made up a sleeping bag for Ricardo, tucked away behind her clothes. It's the perfect place for her young Latin lover to squat and hide.
Time for work.
Every morning, she tells Randy she can't go into the office because of her bipolar disorder.
Let's see.
All right, I'll see you soon.
This lie is the perfect cover and leaves Candace free to spend all day having sex with Ricardo. Unfortunately for her, though, she really has no idea how on the edge she's actually living. Ricardo has a criminal record in Mexico City for aggravated assault.
Just imagine if Candace knew about Ricardo's criminal past. With her great judgment, who knows?
Candace.
After just a month of Candace and Ricardo's new living arrangements, Randy unexpectedly comes home to surprise his wife in the middle of the afternoon. When he approaches the bedroom door, he's startled to hear Candace moaning in ecstasy in their bedroom. Heartbroken and angry, Randy bursts through the bedroom door. Randy Roberts' wife has been cheating on him for months with her live-in lover Ricardo, while Randy's at work. One day, Randy comes home to hear a loud, orgasmic moaning coming from their bedroom. On the verge of tears and full of frustration, a heartbroken Randy bursts through his bedroom door.
Oh.
He's completely shocked when he finds his wife, Candace, giving herself a personal pick-me-up.
Sorry?
Randy looks around the room. He reluctantly accepts that Candace is telling him the truth. Later that night, Randy tucks himself into bed next to his wife, Candace, and tries to go to sleep. As he's lying there in the quiet of the night, Randy hears something. It sounds to him like a man snoring. Randy rushes to his wife's closet and flings open the door.
Oh my God.
A startled Ricardo looks up as Randy pulls him out from under Candace's clothes.
Who is this?
Candace runs over to the closet in a flurry, trying to explain. Randy tells her he doesn't want to hear it. He knew something was wrong earlier in the afternoon when he caught her entertaining herself. Randy tells Candace he's going for a walk to calm down, and that Ricardo better be gone by the time he gets home. Candace is confused on what to do and how to handle the situation. But Ricardo calms her down and realizes he has to get rid of Randy permanently. When Randy returns home from his walk, Ricardo appears out of nowhere, jumping him from behind, and violently beats Randy to death with one of Candace's high-heel shoes. Candace hides in the closet where she can't see or hear anything. Ricardo lets her know when Randy's dead.
The moment Randy walks out of the house is significant because that's the moment that Candace and Ricardo start planning his death. And that's the moment that this goes from crime of passion to premeditated murder.
The murderous duo are emboldened by their heinous crime and celebrate by dragging Randy's lifeless body into the king-size bed with them. They proceed to have sex over and over again while Randy's corpse lies next to them. They even go as far as to record it and smile for the camera as they upload it to the cloud so that they can share it with Ricardo's buddies from the 4th of July. When they're done, they take Randy's body into the bathroom, and that's when they decide to cover his head with the white plastic bag. After a restful night's sleep, Candace gets up bright and early and pretends it's just another normal day.
We're in the hardware store.
Okay.
She grabs a shovel, plastic sheeting, duct tape, bleach, and some sodium hydroxide.
Say you're in a hardware store and somebody comes in and you see him purchase a shovel, some plastic sheeting, a little duct tape, some bleach, and some sodium hydroxide. Well, they're not painting their house, they're disposing of a body. Look at Murder for Dummies, page 1, supplies. That's what you buy.
Candace leaves the hardware store but gets a worried phone call from her mother-in-law.
Hey, Barbara.
She hasn't heard from Randy for their daily 1 p.m. chat, and he's not answering his phone. Candace quickly tells her mother-in-law Randy's really under the weather and he'll call when he's feeling better. Randy's mother offers to bring her son some soup. She promises it's not necessary, but recognizes her lies are only going to buy her so much time with Randy's mom.
Oh my God.
With the pressure mounting, Candace has an anxiety attack, and her mania crashes into a dark stupor. That's when she hatches her scheme to turn in her young lover and blame him for murdering her husband in a jealous rage. As she drives up to her house, she jumps out of the car, running desperately to her neighbor's front door. The police quickly arrive at the Roberts home and find Randy's dead body in the master bathroom covered in a blanket. They hear odd noises coming from the master bedroom closet. With guns drawn, police throw open the closet door, and they are truly shocked at what they see next. Randy Roberts has been bludgeoned to death by his cheating wife's young lover in what she reported to police as a fit of jealous rage. The police have also just discovered what could be the most disturbing part of the crime in the couple's closet. The police burst through the master bedroom's walk-in closet.
Get your hands up! Don't move!
What they find is almost unimaginable. Candace Roberts' young boy toy is sprawled out on a sleeping bag in his underwear.
Get down, get down, get down!
They quickly arrest Ricardo for Randy's murder and put him in handcuffs. Candace Roberts has just dodged a major bullet, at least in her own mind. Her young lover has just been arrested for the first-degree murder of her husband, Randy, and she's free and clear and has her house and Randy's money all to herself. As the police talk to her, they inform her that they know Randy was killed 16 hours before she ever reported the crime. She feigns surprise. They let her know that they're not buying her story and want to know why she's been lying to them. They also want to know about the cozy setup in the closet. Police inform her that they have uncovered some pretty incriminating evidence. A video that shows the aftermath of her husband's murder that was uploaded to the cloud. They arrest a stunned Candace on the spot and read her rights.
If you're going to commit a murder, don't take selfies with the bodies. Do you know who does that? Idiots.
Candace Roberts and her lover Ricardo were both convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
This is the story of the American dream gone tragically wrong. And these three stories intersected in one bedroom, and the lives of three people were destroyed.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Martha has been married to Ron for over a decade.
Look what I got.
They've had their share of rocky patches,
All you talk about is money and you shut up!
but also happy times together. Martha, the nurse, has just finished a long 12-hour shift. It was a slow day. She only saved 3 people's lives. But now, at the end of her day, Martha doesn't realize that her own life is in the gravest danger. For close to 10 years, Martha has been a well-liked and respected nurse at St. Michael's Hospital. The one thing that's missing in her life is love. Someone to complete her. The yin to her yang. Martha, then 33, takes out a personal ad in the hopes of finding Mr. Right.
Fun, loving, looking for a man to share my life with. Been around the block a few times, but I have plenty more miles ahead.
Yeah, me too, Martha.
Ron, a war veteran who works as a building super, answers.
Call.
Hi, is this Martha?
It is.
I saw your ad in the Lustful Love Letters. I'm sorry, it's the first time I've ever done anything on this site.
It's my first time too.
What's your name?
This is Ron. I didn't know what to say or what.
Ron is divorced with 1 child, but Martha is smitten, describing the match as an oldie but a goodie.
I spent 25 years in the FBI, and I learned that finding love through a personal ad can be pretty risky. I remember one case where the person who answered the ad was actually a serial killer wanted for 6 murders, and he ate his victims. Like the worst kind of dinner date, really. Luckily, the local authorities got to him before he made it 7.
After a month-long courtship over the phone, Martha and Ron finally meet in person. 6 months later, They're hitched. Their marriage is a match made in heaven. Ron is the love of Martha's life. The happy couple spent all their days together and nights. But over time, Ron retreats from Martha, preferring to spend his time alone with his collection of sports memorabilia. Ron becomes obsessed with money and the value of his collection. Martha's concerned. This is not the man she married, and a far cry from Martha's own upbeat personality. After 7 years, the marriage develops an itch that needs scratching.
Ron's withdrawal from Martha and the world, as well as his growing obsession with his sports collection, were red flags. And it seems like we've got an inner demon situation going on here.
Ron's fixation with money becomes obsessive.
Look what I got. This is the one I've wanted for a long time.
He resents that his wife brings in more money than he does. And Ron becomes paranoid of losing all his belongings.
Ron, dinner's gonna be ready around 6:30. Green beans.
Hands off. It's mine. It's a lot more expensive than this costume jewelry, I'll tell you that.
It's a ball, Ron.
This is the most expensive ball you'll ever have in your hands.
It's a ball.
You just don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. He spends all of his time in the basement, down there with his sports stuff. He's always angry.
Well, when he's angry, what do you mean? Like, is he verbally abusive or?
Yeah.
Martha confides to her close friend Barbara that Ron is chronically angry and always blaming everyone but himself for his problems.
But I do get scared.
She thinks it could have something to do with his time in the military.
I don't know what to do.
It's not uncommon for war veterans, and I've known some, to suffer from depression and anxiety. These days, we have a name for it, PTSD, and it's an ugly thing.
Could Ron's wartime trauma be finally catching up with him? Although he doesn't like to discuss the war, he tells Martha that he saw serious combat when he was in country with special ops.
Serious combat with special ops? Oh, no. The official record states that Ron spent the war tied to a desk. I'd say someone is feeling a little inadequate because he didn't see any action at all.
Things start to look up for Ron when he lands his dream job as manager of Adult Zone, a chain of porno stores in Spokane.
Believe it or not, Ron himself has no interest in porn. He's just reading the articles. Actually, what he's really interested in is the money. He isn't getting rich, but it's a well-paid gig with benefits and stability, and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He's the boss, at least when it came to cleaning up. And that's what Ron really wanted to do, clean up.
Over the following 10 months, as his paranoia and rage continued to grow, his new career at the porno store brings Ron into contact with some nasty characters.
Hey, man. Hey, it's closed. We're closed. I'm Jerry. I'm here for the job.
Hey, Jerry. I've been expecting you.
Thanks, man.
Name's Ron.
One of his employees, Jerry, is a real sleazy dude with a rap sheet a mile long. Jerry also has a mean and expensive appetite for hard drugs. Cocaine, speed, crack, you name it. And he's always broke.
Ron doesn't have a criminal record or anything, but he and Jerry become fast friends. Both are ex-military. Both resent the world and see themselves as victims, though. Ron and Jerry bond over shared grievances, both real and imagined.
The new job only fuels Ron's obsession with money. He lies to Martha about the amounts he's making and stockpiles thousands in the den without her knowledge.
In Ron's collapsing psyche, he's the victim. That's not uncommon. Everybody's out to get him. He's got to defend himself. He's got to prepare for the worst. He's got to prepare for Armageddon.
My honey went into the basement and now he's non-existent. All you talk about is money, Ron. All you talk about is money and you shut up.
Shut up.
Martha's a compassionate person and can take a lot. She's a nurse, after all. But she's starting to worry about her safety.
In the basement trying to secure our future. I don't ever want to come home to this.
Get out, Ron. I can't do it anymore. I want you to leave.
I'll leave.
So at 59 years old, Mr. Pornshop is forced to move back home with his father. Sure, you can call it a dream life, but things aren't looking up for old Ron.
And then, things go from bad to worse for Ron. Without warning or explanation, he loses his job at Adult Zone. What do you have to do to get fired from a porno store?
Can you come over? I just think we need to talk.
Then Ron finally catches a break. Like an eager puppy begging for a scrap of food, Ron is hopeful that Martha has seen the error of her ways, realized she can't live without him, and wants to patch things back up.
Hi. It's your favorite.
Really? You thought a flower was gonna make up for how you've treated me?
Yeah?
But then Martha drops the bomb.
It's over, Ron. I want a divorce.
A divorce means that Ron will lose half of the house, his share of Martha's pension and benefits, and all the cash he's stashed away in the den.
Ron's not the kind of guy to go down without a fight. He isn't about to sit back and lose half of the house, all of Martha's money, money that, as far as he's concerned, is owed to him. No way, not a chance. He wants revenge.
Lucky for Ron, he knows just the kind of guy who can help him solve his problem.
No, I want her out of the picture. Permanently.
Jerry is desperate for cash to fuel his out-of-control drug addiction and clear his debts. It doesn't take him long to decide.
I'll give you half now and half later when the job's done.
Deal.
Deal. And don't use the knife.
No knife.
We gotta be creative about this, Jerry.
Acting like they actually know what they're doing, Ron and Jerry weigh the pros and cons of which weapon to use.
How about the drill?
And what, stage a home repair accident?
All right, no drill.
No drill.
Strangle. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Jerry, that's the time my mom gave me.
How about a gun?
Guns are loud. The neighbors are gonna hear, and the hammer. Huh?
A handgun is the better weapon to use for a guaranteed kill, because a hammer can be a messy affair, and messy equals evidence. But a handgun makes an incredibly loud sound unless you have a silencer, and these idiots don't. And 2/3 of all murders in the US are done with a gun. One thing's for sure, though, if you're debating this topic, you're either the police or a cold-blooded maniac.
All the way back, all the way.
After much deliberation, Jerry decides to use a hammer. A silent blow or two to Martha's head should do the trick. To throw off the police, they decide to make it look like a burglary gone sideways. They'll move around some of Ron's sports memorabilia as though that's what the thieves were after. Pure genius.
Flip it. What are you doing?
It's just a ball.
You're just like her.
If the idea is to make the crime look like a robbery for a sports collection, unless you're O.J. Simpson, this is going to be a bit of a stretch.
As soon as you open the door, with the key triggers the alarm. You have 30 seconds to put the code in. 4, 5, 6, number sign. What is it?
4, 5,
Oh, Jesus, Jerry, what comes after 5?
6.
Look, write it down, okay?
Okay.
4, 5, 6,
4,
numbers.
5.
And then it's probably not a great idea for the robber to have a house key and know how to deactivate the alarm. I mean, how would the perp be able to do that? There doesn't seem to be any logic here at all. Maybe that's just my 25 years in the FBI talking. I don't know.
Martha gets a surprise call at work from Ron.
Hey, it's me. I just want to let you know I'm going to get away for a few days, okay? I'm stressed out. I just need to clear my head.
Okay. Where are you gonna go?
Just up north somewhere. Just at a motel. I just wanted to let you know. Hey, I got to go.
Okay, Ron. What do we have to do?
Ron thinks he's clever, which is wonderful for law enforcement. He calls his soon-to-be ex-wife to establish an alibi. Now he waits in a cheap motel for his degenerate friend Jerry to bludgeon Martha to death with a hammer. Nice couple of guys.
After a 12-hour shift, a hammer to the head should be a death blow. But Martha is one tough cookie.
Did we mention that as a nurse, Martha has self-defense training? Well, she does, and she's got plenty of experience using it. Fearing she's about to die, Martha shows serious smarts and instinct by biting her attacker. Her teeth marks could be used as identification.
Martha isn't about to let her attacker get the best of her. She'll fight to the bitter end if that's what it takes.
Who are you? Who are you? I'm your killer! Who sent you?
The epic fight lasts almost 30 minutes. It's a brutal battle to the death.
Jerry obviously didn't think that little old Martha would be a match for him. He was wrong, dead wrong. She was much more than a match for him.
Martha has turned the tables on the attacker. And killed him with her bare hands. Battered and bloodied, Martha runs to her neighbor and calls the police.
The stress for a paranoiac like Ron is immense. I mean, what could be taking Jerry so long? He should have called hours ago. Ron is most definitely losing his mind at this point, at least what mind he has left.
Detective Maxwell is the investigator assigned to the case. Thanks to Jerry's total lack of intelligence, investigators easily identify him at the scene. That's so Jerry.
After 25 years in the FBI, let me give you a pro tip. don't bring your wallet to the scene of the crime.
Investigators then discover a note in Martha's house left by Ron.
The note is obviously meant to bolster his alibi, but the investigators were made simply more suspicious. In a case like this, where there's an estranged spouse, they're an automatic suspect. In fact, statistically, almost half of all women who are murdered in America are killed by people they know, usually a current or former boyfriend or spouse.
At approximately 1 p.m., the day after the attack, Martha's friend Barbara gets a call from Ron.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara. It's Ron. I just saw Martha's house on the news. Is everything okay?
You haven't heard? She was attacked.
Oh my gosh. Is she all right?
She's roughed up, but she's okay. And she's gonna pull through.
Did they know who attacked her? What happened to him?
He's dead.
Oh my God.
Once Ron gets over the shock and awe that Martha survived the attack, he's desperate to track her down. He calls the hospital, but the investigators tell Martha and the staff to conceal her whereabouts and give Ron nothing.
Jerry, you idiot! Jerry!
Four days after the attack, Martha, having recovered remarkably quickly from the injuries inflicted upon her by her attacker Jerry, is released from the hospital.
So we're not making this up. It turns out that in Jerry's backpack was an envelope with a couple of bucks. And oh yeah, he also left a daybook entry with "Call Ron" on it. It's the crucial clue in the case. It connects Jerry directly to Ron. You remember what I said about bringing personal belongings to the crime scene? Honestly, I don't think Jerry could have been any more stupid if he'd tried.
Now the investigators need to locate Ron as soon as possible. They track down his son, Mike, who tells them he's actually been in touch with his father. He then mentioned that he's worried because the last time they were together, Mike discovered a revolver hidden in his father's drawer.
The investigators are up against the clock. Ron is desperate, and he's volatile, and he's paranoid. These are very bad things that, in my experience, make him more than a suspect. He's a high-risk suspect. The investigators convince Ron's son, Mike, to call his father to coax him back to Spokane without revealing that he's wanted for questioning.
Once Ron returns to town, the police take him into custody and question him about his alibi.
What I meant to say is Thursday evening. It was Wednesday. I was there for lunch. Jerry and I.
Okay, here's Criminal 101. If you're going to create an alibi, you gotta stick with the one version of what happened. Ron just can't keep his story straight, and it becomes obvious that he's making it up as he's going along. He's lying through his teeth.
Ron repeatedly gets his timeline mixed up, confusing Tuesday for Wednesday, Wednesday for Friday. The discrepancies in his story pose enough grounds for the investigators to arrest him. Ron is charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. Hoping for a lighter sentence, he pleads guilty and avoids a trial. The court gives him 15 years.
Martha's actions are considered justifiable as self-defense, duh, and she isn't charged with killing Jerry.
With Ron behind bars, Martha officially divorces him. She now goes by Martha Smith.
The moral of this story is, don't mess with nurses. They're good people who want to help you. But if you want to kill them, you better be tougher than you think they are, because they'll kick your sorry ass. Oh, and one other thing. If you plan on being a low-life criminal, don't bring your ID to the crime scene, okay? Ever. not once. Never a good idea.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised.
Nope.
On this episode of Bizarre Murders,
Hi.
when a lonely heart thinks she's found the man of her dreams, she launches into a whirlwind romance.
I don't like him and I don't trust him.
But will he make her heart skip
Oh my God, yes, yes.
or just stop beating?
Send an ambulance right away. My wife's unconscious.
Joan, the manager of a prestigious local architecture firm, has everything she ever wanted when it comes to her career.
Nope. No.
But after 2 failed marriages, this 45-year-old finds herself back in the dating pool, and the water is cold.
Too into himself.
When you're a woman over 40, unfortunately, most of your dating options are less Fabio and more Flabio. This leaves many successful women with their beds empty and their bank accounts full. Targets for attractive young liars, scammers, or worse. It just isn't fair.
Just when Joan's given up on finding love again, the man of her dreams walks in to her office.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Clay.
Joan, come in.
Clay, a chiseled-jawed architect who's just turned 32, is starting his first day at Joan's firm.
So, how are you settling in?
Oh, it's great, yeah.
Good.
Everyone's been really welcoming and, you know, figuring my way around.
Good.
Yeah.
From the moment their eyes meet, there are sparks.
Stop by anytime. My door is always open to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
To Joan, Clay seems like the man she's been searching for her entire life. Not only is he handsome, but he's charming, funny, and has a great job.
You might want to tell your wife that you're going to be working long hours.
I'm single.
Oh. Okay, so great.
But with 13 years age difference between them, Joan's certain Clay would never be attracted to her.
But Joan's wrong. Clay's interested in her, very interested. The question is it for the right reasons?
When Clay makes his desires known, Joan is more than receptive. Before long, the couple is inseparable.
This is the first time in her life that Joan feels really loved in every possible way. In a few short months, she's gone from giving up on relationships to living the life of a romance novel heroine, and she's eating it up.
So he's from the Midwest, and where was he before he was at your firm?
I'm not sure. We just haven't made that far in the conversations. But I can tell he's really, really, really good guy.
And how can you tell?
Not everyone is happy about the relationship, though, including Joan's best friend, Lena.
This is moving way too fast. Why don't you just slow down, make sure that it's really right this time?
It's fine.
You've heard people talk about beer goggles, but I've seen plenty of love goggles. Smart people, but they're so wrapped up in their romantic fantasies that they ignore the basic lessons we were taught as kids, like don't trust people until you've gotten to know them. How does that Elvis song go? Only fools rush in.
That was just a truly wonderful night.
Let me get a look at you again. You really are the most beautiful woman I've ever laid my eyes on.
I bet you say that to all the
Despite Lena's reservations, Joan is determined to live her real-life romance novel. And in 3 months, she moves on to the next chapter.
Will you marry me?
Of course, yes, yes.
2 months later, the couple is married in a small ceremony attended by their closest friends. But a dark cloud appears over Joan's sunny new life when she notices money disappearing from her bank account. There's only 2 people who have access to that account, her and her brand new husband, Clay.
What is this? These are my accounts.
Joan, I can explain this.
Yeah, you better.
Clay confesses to taking the money.
I'm paying child support.
What?
But says he only did it to support his 2 children from his 2 previous marriages.
I've made some bad decisions in my past, but that's what it is. It's the past. Joan, I love you. You're the one I want to be with.
Joan forgives Clay, and he swears to never betray her trust again.
I've lost count of how many times at the FBI we'd see kind, generous, beautiful women desperate for attention being swept away by boy toys who take them for everything they've got. I mean, if it's too good to be true, it is. In my experience, no matter how much these guys swear you can trust them, the situation almost always ends in tears. If you're lucky.
You are his wife now. Don't you think your entire relationship being based on a lie is a little bit of a problem? I don't like him, and I don't trust him, and I don't know what you don't get about that.
Not everyone is as forgiving as Joan.
You can't trust the guy. He lied to you.
When Lena hears what Clay's been up to, she seizes on it as proof he's a bad guy.
You don't know him like I know him.
Life soon returns to normal. Until... almost a year to the day of her wedding, Joan is struck with a sudden mysterious illness that leaves her throwing up with bloody diarrhea and gasping for breath. By the time Clay races her to the hospital, her organs are already failing.
How are you, Joan? You feeling okay?
Clay stays by his wife's side as puzzled doctors run a battery of tests trying to determine what's happened to the normally vibrant Joan.
Do you think you could just give us a few minutes?
Joan's close confidant, Lena, requests a moment alone with her friend.
I just need to see my friend alone for a few minutes. I'm sure you can understand that.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Clay is hesitant,
It'll be fine.
but finally agrees, telling Joan he'll be right outside.
Why is Clay acting so strange? What is going on with him?
Within minutes, Clay gets antsy and decides it's time to resume his place at his wife's side.
One of the signs that Mr. Wonderful might be a problem is that he needs total control over you.
I think Joan needs some rest now, so you should go.
Guys like Clay rely on having absolute influence over the woman they're latched onto. If you're an outsider who isn't buying into his charm and worshiping at the altar of his ego, then you're gone.
With Lena ousted, Clay resumes his vigil at his wife's bedside.
Joan?
Until minutes later, her vital signs crash.
Help! Help! Somebody! Help my wife!
Joan may have wanted to live a romance novel, but now her story's taking an unexpected twist.
Is she breathing? What's going on? Help!
Doctors inform Clay that Joan has suffered a stroke.
Joan! Joan, come on. Help her! Please, Joan!
Her organs are already failing.
Tell me what's going on!
They warn him to prepare for the worst. But by a medical miracle, they eventually manage to stabilize his wife. When hospital staff double-check Joan's IV, they find the bank of fluids that was previously clear is now cloudy. That can only mean one thing. Someone's tampered with it.
To tamper with an IV bag at a hospital, that's ballsy. You have to undo the line, use a syringe to tamper with the contents, then put everything back in place, all in a couple minutes. That's almost impossible for somebody without medical experience.
Doctors run another battery of tests on Joan. When the results come back, they show something much more serious than IV tampering. She's been poisoned with lidocaine, an everyday medication that in high doses can become deadly.
Lidocaine is best known as a key ingredient in hemorrhoid cream, so it can get rid of a pain in the ass. I wonder who sees Joan as a pain in the ass.
Having discovered that Joan's been poisoned on their watch, doctors must treat this situation as an attempted murder.
Meet you. I'm Detective Weber.
Most of the time when there's an attempt on a woman's life, you'll find that her spouse is behind it. So in a situation like this, we're looking straight at, you guessed it, Mr. Wonderful, Clay. And unlike Joan, we're not focused on his pecs.
But Clay's not the only one who has access to Joan.
You've got doctors, nurses, orderlies, candy stripers. Even Lena has to be considered a suspect as she was alone with Joan. You've heard everybody's a suspect, but it's true. Police work is based on thorough investigations, not on hunches and assumptions. We leave those to psychics and armchair detectives. And let me tell you, our solve rate is much, much higher than theirs.
I'm wondering if either of you have seen anybody other than hospital staff in this room.
No.
No one.
With no hard evidence to narrow the pool of suspects, and with Joan saying she wants to forget the whole incident, Detective Hannah Weber is forced to drop her investigation before it's even begun.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
When Joan is eventually released from the hospital, Clay attends to her every need. And once Joan's back at work,
Hey, babe.
Clay, ever the doting husband, only becomes more protective.
Oh yeah, Clay's right in there protecting Joan from her friends, her coworkers, the police, anyone who could challenge her rose-colored view of him. Thank God for Clay.
Just when Joan is finally getting back to her old routine, she lands in another hospital with the same old symptoms: vomiting, bloody diarrhea, and difficulty breathing. Once again, Clay runs to her side. Once again, her IV turns cloudy. And once again, doctors discover that she has been poisoned with lidocaine.
Well, that narrows the suspect pool because one hospital could have a homicidal staff member going around poisoning patients. I mean, it happens, but it's rare. Two hospitals with would-be killers trying to murder the same patient with the same poison, that only happens in movies, the really bad ones.
When hospital staff get in touch with Detective Weber, she knows what she has to do.
I'm going to need you to step out of the room.
Detective Weber bans everyone but essential staff from the room.
You too, ma'am.
And posts officers to stand guard over Joan. Detective Weber interviews Joan alone so she can speak freely.
How are you feeling?
But Joan refuses to cooperate with the investigation.
Do you know if your husband has been in this room the entire time?
My husband has nothing to do with this.
So Joan is clearly still drinking Clay's Kool-Aid. The investigators would be better off talking to Lena. She's not buying what Clay is selling.
With the investigation once again stalled, Lena decides it's time to take matters into her own hands. Late one night, she sneaks into Clay's office. Lena discovers a series of life insurance policies, all taken out on Joan, with her husband Clay as the sole beneficiary.
Come on, is anybody really surprised by this? I didn't think so.
Certain she's found the proof she needs to expose Clay, Lena again confronts Joan, life insurance policies in hand. Joan is hesitant, but agrees to speak with Clay about the policies that night.
Clay? Can you come here a minute?
What is it?
What are these?
They're insurance policies.
When Joan questions her husband about the policies, he claims he has to protect himself and his children in case anything ever happens to her.
Protect them from what? His cash cow drying up? This guy is a real piece of work.
Honey, you haven't been well. What if something happened? I mean, this is what couples do. You've been talking to Lena, haven't you?
The real problem, Clay says, is Lena snooping through his office.
She's got it in for me.
She doesn't have it in for you.
Yes, she does.
No, she doesn't.
I've sensed it from day one. She's coming between us.
You know, the only thing creepier than trying to control who your wife spends time with,
I don't think you should see her anymore,
is doing that same thing while your hands are around her neck.
We talked about it, and he explained everything to me.
The next day, when Lena asks how Clay reacted to the life insurance policies, Joan turns the situation around.
You know what? I've had enough.
Yeah, me too.
I've had enough of you. Get out. I'm over this. Get out.
By this point, it's obvious to everyone, except Joan, that Clay has it out for her. But she's determined to follow her heart, even if it kills her.
Joan? 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 Joan, are you all right? Joan? Joan? Send an ambulance right away. My wife's unconscious. Joan? Joan? Joan, stay with me.
Joan arrives at the hospital not breathing and with no pulse. Despite their best efforts, doctors are unable to pull off yet another miracle. Within minutes of her arrival, Joan is pronounced dead.
When Joan's fantasy romance takes a deadly turn, Detective Weber's determined to smoke out the killer.
Hi, yeah, it's Detective Weber.
She immediately orders an autopsy. When the results come in, they reveal Joan's cause of death as nicotine poisoning.
Okay, something's not right here. Something's bizarre. You've got a non-smoker who's turned up dead from nicotine poison. In all my years with the FBI, I have never seen anything like it.
The investigation gets more bizarre when the coroner finds an unexplained mark behind her ear.
So, Clay.
Detective Weber interviews prime suspect Clay.
She'd mentioned earlier that day that she had some chest pains, but
he denies having anything to do with Joan's death.
I called 911 and, well, you know the rest.
He claims the couple had simply enjoyed a quiet evening at home, then headed to bed together.
Did Joan have any enemies who may have wanted to kill her?
He suggests that Weber speak with Lena, the only person Joan fought with recently.
I heard you had a fight with Joan about Clay. We had several fights.
Detective Weber interviews Joan's friend.
He was awful to her. He bled her dry financially.
Only to have her point the finger back at Clay as the one with the real motive to kill Joan. Unable to establish when Joan was poisoned, there's nothing more Detective Weber can do. And once again, the case goes cold.
Lena's devastated by Joan's death. Maybe not surprised, but she's devastated. Clay? Not so much. In a matter of weeks, he sells her house and skips town.
Clay moves to Los Angeles, California, where he gets a job as a graphic designer, remarries, and has a child. But one person refuses to move on. Detective Weber.
Here's my investigative rule. You can have a hunch, but you have to let it die a natural death if evidence changes it. In this case, the only person who had real access to Joan the night of the murder was her husband, Clay. There's been an incredible advance in technology in the last decade or so, and maybe there was enough to get the evidence to make this theory stick.
Detective Weber sends out the evidence to one of the nation's leading nicotine experts. A key piece of new evidence is uncovered using methods that weren't available 7 years earlier.
The issue with this case has always been that law enforcement couldn't or didn't establish a timeline for the poisoning. Well, we finally got one, and that's all they need to nail that guy.
Have a seat.
Thanks. Thanks for seeing me again.
No problem.
I'm here because we got the toxicology report back on your wife's death, and I have a couple questions based on the results.
Toxicology report.
Clay still claims that he and Joan spent the evening together, then went to bed. When Detective Weber asks whether anyone else came by the house that night, Clay confirms that there was more than a 6-hour period where the couple was alone before Joan died.
Bam! Clay may not know it, but he just gave himself up. You see, the nicotine expert gave a timeline. It says the poison was administered 30 minutes before Joan's death, and Clay's just said he was the only one with her at that time. See ya, Clay.
Clay's statement and the medical expert's timeline can only mean one thing. After Joan went to bed that fateful night, her husband stayed up and prepared a lethal concoction by meticulously emptying out an entire pack of cigarettes and emulsifying the dried tobacco into a liquid substance.
As for how he administered it, do you remember that unexplained mark behind Joan's ear? When Joan was at her most vulnerable, her supposed dream man gave her a deadly shot of nicotine and then climbed into bed and waited for her to die. That amount of nicotine doesn't sound like a lot, but for a non-smoker like Joan, 1 pack would do the trick.
To ensure his plan worked this time, Clay waited until Joan was too far gone to be saved before calling 911 and performing CPR.
He thought acting like the perfect husband would throw police off his trail, but we know that trick.
Send an ambulance right away.
Just because someone helps the victim doesn't mean we stop looking at them. I mean, if anything, we look harder since they all had the access needed to kill. Why do they keep thinking they're smarter than the police?
When investigators looked into Clay's past, they discovered he didn't just lie about murdering his wife, but about everything, including his degree in architecture.
Will you marry me?
Of course, yes.
The whole dream relationship had been fake too. Clay hadn't fallen for Joan, just her bank account. When her cash started to dry up, Clay took his plan to the next level.
As soon as Joan was worth more to Clay dead than alive, he rewrote her story, going from a sexy romance to a murder mystery.
After twice failing to kill Joan with lidocaine, Clay changed the drug of his choice to nicotine and discovered that when it came to killing Joan, 3rd time's the charm. Certain he got off scot-free, Clay cashed in Joan's life insurance, quit his job, and left town, rich and ready to start over. As for Lena, she was right about everything to do with Clay and had only been trying to save her friend from the clutches of a dangerous charlatan.
Here's a strange thing about human nature that you see specifically in this case. Despite continued overwhelming evidence that Clay was using and abusing her, Joan just couldn't or wouldn't see it. She wanted so badly to be a romance novel heroine that she bought into the wrong man. You know what he bought? He bought an insurance policy on her life.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Donna and her daughter Shayna have lived a life of hardship. Shayna's illnesses have left her wheelchair-bound, and her mother has sacrificed everything to help her. But when Donna encounters evil at the hands of a stranger, and her daughter goes missing, police race against time to save them and uncover a hidden secret. In a quiet, small town, Lana is concerned about her neighbors, 46-year-old Donna, and her severely handicapped teenage daughter, Shayna. Lana is worried because bizarre messages were posted on Donna's social media page earlier that day.
From an investigator's point of view, you want to pay attention to the difference in tone from the previous posts. Does it sound like a sweet, loving single mother who has selflessly raised her sickly, handicapped daughter? Or does it sound more like the writings of a deranged killer? My vote is for number 2.
Lana drops by to see what's going on. The house looks like it's been ransacked. Now, very worried about her neighbors, she calls the police. When no one answers the door, police enter the house.
Donna? Shayna?
He makes a horrific discovery. It appears that Donna has been bludgeoned to death.
Hey, dispatch, we've got a dead body here. No murder weapon at this time. No signs of forced entry. Send backup.
When you don't see any evidence of forced entry, you can often conclude that the victim knew their killer. It happens more often than we'd like to think. An unsuspecting person opens the door to their trusted friend or relative, and the murderer waltzes right in. Game over.
Police do a sweep of the entire house. The good news? The killer is gone. The bad news? So is Shayna. Shayna is confined to a wheelchair and can only travel with her mother's assistance. Everything points to a kidnapping.
Imagine the situation the police have on their hands. It stands to reason that the killer has taken Shayna. So somewhere out there, there's a severely disabled teenager whose chances of survival are slim. During my time with the FBI, I learned the hard way that if you don't find the victim of an abduction within the first 48 hours, it gets pretty grim, and it gets that way fast. There's a ticking clock, and it started hours ago.
Police interview Donna's neighbor, Lana. She tells them that Shayna has been having a romance with a man she met online.
He's really cool. He's really, really cute. He makes me laugh. He's so funny. Does your mom know? No. Oh my God, she'd kill me.
His name is Robbie, and he's a 32-year-old resident of Utah.
Now we're getting somewhere. Whenever you've got a missing woman, the first place you look is her husband or boyfriend. 85% of the time, if they haven't done the deed themselves, then they've masterminded it. And I use the term mastermind kind of lightly.
Using Robbie's social media account, where he has helpfully posted his address, the police are able to track him down to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Really? Posting your address on your social media account? Oh, come on. That has to take the cake for one of the stupidest things anyone can do, much less a potential criminal who police are looking for.
They've come prepared for a violent confrontation with a suspected brutal killer.
Sorry, I was just in the bathroom. Come in.
Who's there?
Instead of finding a sickly, disabled Shayna, possibly tied and bound,
Shayna?
The police find an able-bodied, healthy young woman.
Shayna is obviously not kidnapped, nor is she disabled. Someone's got some serious explaining to do.
Shayna and Robbie admit they've been having a secret long-distance love affair.
The investigation has taken a bizarre and completely unexpected turn. So now the investigators have to switch lanes, throw their original assumptions out the window, and follow the breadcrumbs. And in this case, it's not a straight line.
Shayna, I've got to tell you, your mother's dead.
What?
She was murdered.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. What?
I know it's hard, but I have to ask you if you know anything.
Shayna claims to have no idea who would want to hurt her mother. Everyone loved her.
Shayna, I was under the impression that you were sick, even in a wheelchair.
Shayna tells an astonishing tale. For her whole life, she has been forced by her mother to pretend to be an invalid.
Shayna. Mom, I feel fine.
She had none of the medical problems or illnesses Donna claimed she had. Even her age had been a lie. Most people thought Shayna was 18. In reality, she's 26.
Mother-daughter relationships are complicated at the best of times, but this takes it to a whole new level. You've got a mother who has somehow made her daughter believe all of her life that she's been sick. And you thought your mom was tough on you?
It's pretty much the wackiest case this cop has ever heard. Was Shayna truly a victim or a willing accomplice?
Sometimes criminals hide in plain sight, which can make them even more difficult to catch, and this is especially true of fraudsters like Donna. They fit seamlessly into society, and if you show them a vulnerability, they'll play you.
Who was Donna? And how did she get away with this brazen fraud for so long? Born and raised in Texas, Donna grew up with an abusive father. She had Shayna when she was only 21 years old and worked as an office cleaner to make ends meet. When Hurricane Ike hits and she loses everything, she packs up and moves north to Cheyenne, Wyoming for a fresh start.
I've been taking care of her all her life. I'm her mother, and I know what's best. She needs the surgery.
From the moment she was born, Donna claimed her daughter suffered from numerous ailments.
She's sick.
They travel from clinic to clinic, with Donna browbeating medical experts to provide the diagnosis she wants for Shayna. If one doctor doubts her claims or produces negative test results,
I'm gonna get a second opinion.
she simply goes to another. Shayna endures many unnecessary surgeries and even has a feeding tube inserted into her stomach. This allows Donna ultimate control. She can monitor what Shayna eats and can administer whatever drug she wants her to take.
Shayna, look at the beautiful colors in this book. Oh, what a cute little bird. My goodness. He seems to be quite happy to be there, too. Oh, look at these.
Donna treats Shayna as though she's many years younger than she really is.
Hey, sweetheart.
I like his shirt.
She withdraws her from school, telling everyone she is stuck with the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. By the time she's a young teen, Shayna doesn't even know her true age.
Oh, sweetheart. It's okay.
I'm not feeling well. I think I might need my pills.
Of course, sweetheart. Of course.
Shayna is, in effect, brainwashed to believe she's an incurable invalid. So the next time you think you've got problems with your own mother, think again.
Here's your check.
The public eats up the story of a single mom with a severely disabled daughter.
I'd just like to thank him.
It's been such a difficult time for me, us, and we really appreciate all the love that that has gone into assisting Shayna. Being a single mom is hard, but with all the help from everyone, we really appreciate it. Don't we, Shayna?
Donna benefits from social assistance and donations.
This woman makes Joan Crawford look like a saint. Not only is she making her daughter ill, but she's making a quick and easy buck at the same time.
What no one knows is that Donna is exhibiting classic signs of a rare and highly disturbing condition.
It's going to be so helpful to us, isn't it, Shayna?
Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a disorder in which a spouse or a caregiver fabricates illness in their partner or child.
So let me spell it out for you non-believers. Basically, your loved one isn't killing you. They're simply making you sick so that they can get attention.
I would do anything for my daughter.
It's a controversial concept and not universally accepted by mental health experts.
So as an investigator, you've got to wonder, is it deliberate abuse or something that the instigator can't help? Is it a real illness or a way of rationalizing appalling behavior? In my 25 years of law enforcement, I've seen strange motives, but making your daughter believe she's dying so you can get attention, well, that pushes the crazy meter full tilt.
Shayna is forced into a life of deception until one day she makes a glorious discovery: the internet. Shayna discovers there's a whole world out there beyond the prison her mother has created for her. And she's determined to explore it.
Up until now, Shayna isn't a typical teen. But deprive them of candy and they'll want candy. Deprive them of a social life, you get the picture.
Shayna becomes quickly obsessed with the new opportunities presented.
Shayna sets up 3 secret social media accounts and communicates with people at night when Donna is asleep. And by people, I mean boys. And by boys, I mean men.
Shayna's first attempt at independence takes place at a comic book convention, a rare treat from Donna for her sick daughter. Shayna takes the first chance she can get and ducks out of Donna's view.
Shayna! Get your hands off my daughter, you pervert! She's only 16! I'm gonna call the police.
Beware a mother scorned, especially one with psychological issues.
And you are never going to leave me. And this, you are never going to see again. Ever. Ever.
Every rational human being has their breaking point. And the moment in the hotel room is the proverbial last straw for Shayna.
Donna eventually gives back the computer, figuring that Shayna has learned her lesson. But Shayna has other plans and begins plotting to escape her mother and their life of deception for good.
The internet has changed the world in a lot of ways, from how we interact with each other to how we form intimate relationships.
Enter Robbie. Maybe not the greatest catch in the world, but for an isolated young girl whose only means of communicating with the outside world is online, not bad. Together, they create a vivid online fantasy world. But fantasy soon crosses over to reality, and they start dreaming of a life together.
There's only one thing standing in the way of her happily ever after. Mommy dearest. So you might think to yourself, why not just run away? Shayna probably thinks her mother will track her down and destroy her one chance at happiness.
After a year of dating online, Shayna and Robbie finally meet IRL, in real life, at a movie theater. The movie can wait. They find a private spot to consummate their relationship. It's no honeymoon suite, but it'll do just fine.
Let's run away together.
What?
Yes.
I can't. My mom. No, she wouldn't understand. She needs to be gone for me to be with you.
Shayna reveals to Robbie her big plan to permanently erase her jailkeeper, AKA her mother, from her life. And she needs Robbie's help.
If I had a girlfriend and she told me on our first official date that she wanted to kill her mother, I'd run for the hills. But then again, love can cause people to throw caution to the wind. If I were to venture a guess, I'd say the fantasy world Shayna has created has crossed over from fantasy to delusion, and she's looking for someone to do her bidding.
Let's do it.
While Donna sleeps like a log, Shayna sneaks out of her bedroom and quietly lets Robbie into her house.
That's perfect. We gotta do this.
Are you sure about this?
100%. I've never been more sure about anything.
I love you too.
With Donna blissfully unaware, her beloved daughter prepares to cut her sleep a little short.
Years of psychological abuse may give Donna cause for regret, as her daughter, Shayna, executes her plan for freedom.
Children killing their parents is very rare. It's even more rare for a daughter to be involved in killing her mother. But Shayna is caught in a perfect storm. She lives an isolated life, and she has an unwavering belief that there is no other way out.
Once Donna is dead, Shayna takes $3,000 of her mother's money, and with Robbie, heads to his home in Salt Lake City, where she's ultimately arrested. The people of Cheyenne are utterly shocked. There, on the evening news, is Shayna. Her hands are cuffed behind her back. But more shocking than the murder charge is the fact that she's walking. Although the murder appears premeditated, given the unique nature of her circumstance, Shayna is allowed to plead guilty to second-degree murder. She's sentenced to 15 years in prison. Some are convinced Shayna's intent was pure evil. Others see Shayna as a brainwashed victim who made a desperate bid to free herself from her monstrous mother.
Mother-daughter relationships can be difficult to navigate, and a daughter killing her own mother can be hard to understand. But maybe Shayna inherited more from her mother than she realized when she entered this made-up fantasy world. She simply played her part in the fairy tale and rid the world of the villain.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. Miss Cece, fortune teller extraordinaire.
Spirits, come to me, please.
She's progressed from working in the local laundromat
The lover's card.
to being the most sought-after mystic in town.
Last reveal. It's the death card.
But when Miss Cece and her daughter become the victims of a vicious attack in their own home, detectives must decipher a bizarre clue that weaves superstition and brutality in equal parts. Miss Cece, the best fortune teller in town, attracts clients from all over the country. Her services, palm readings and casting spells, don't come cheap. She charges up to $12,000 cash, which she stashes around her home. She flaunts her wealth, driving expensive cars and shopping for extravagant jewelry. And while some people in the community resent Miss Cece, in times of need, they rely on her to rewrite their fates and change the course of their lives.
The people in the community have placed great trust in Miss Cece. They may not like her, but they need her. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 25 years with the FBI, it's this. The pedestal that she has been put on doesn't come without peril. No pedestal does. To whom much has been given, much is expected.
The cost of flaunting her wealth finally catches up with Miss Cece and hits her where it hurts. The robbers make off with $75,000 in cash, but they don't like tea.
Dealing in cash and defrauding the government works just fine and dandy until it doesn't. Everyone and their uncle knows Miss Cece hoards her money in her home, so it doesn't take two geniuses to know they could get away with a big boatload of cash.
The thieves are eventually caught, but without enough evidence to prosecute, they're released. Miss Cece has the locks changed and installs a security system in her home.
There's so much to tell you, Miss Cece.
She now only sees clients that she knows. One of those clients is Tracy. And she's in a pickle.
Close your eyes and hold my hands. Let's gather our energy so all the spirits will come to us.
The mother of 3 children and the owner of a fashion boutique, Tracy is a busy entrepreneur with a flourishing side business. Her husband's brother, Lay. Tracy has been having an illicit affair with Lay for over 2 years, even though he lives thousands of miles away in Richmond, Virginia.
It always strikes me as odd when people look within their own family to cheat. And I don't know, maybe it makes it easier. Certainly it's going to make the family gatherings a little more interesting.
Now, what is it that you want me to help you with today?
Well, you know Lay, the guy I've been seeing?
Yes.
I'm getting mixed signals from him.
Tracy trusts Miss Cece implicitly and doesn't make a move without consulting her.
He doesn't want to see me anymore. I think he's falling out of love with me.
So when her brother-in-law breaks off the affair, Miss Cece is the first person she sees.
I was wondering if you could put a love spell on him.
If I do cast a spell, it's very expensive.
Spells and hocus pocus may sound pretty out there, but people who are superstitious can have unwavering faith in fortune tellers.
Will this suffice?
Thank you.
One of the things you quickly learn as an investigator is to look at a person's actions in the context of their beliefs.
Please join Tracy and Lay together for eternal love.
And when you do that, seemingly random actions suddenly have a lot of meaning.
It's the death card. Do you know what that means? There's something in your life that you have to end right now.
Well, I have been thinking of divorcing my husband.
That's it. That's it. That's what the death represents, that you must divorce your husband.
So it's settled. It's all in the cards.
It is.
Impulsive behavior like that can be a real good indicator that a person's decision-making ability is, what's the word, skewed.
Happy and relieved, Tracy packs up her belongings and her kids and says, "See you later," to her husband. With another satisfied client under her belt, Miss Cece pockets the $5,000 fee and gets back to doing what she does best, shopping.
It looks like Miss Cece didn't learn her lesson about flaunting her money. Remember that time she was robbed at gunpoint? It's almost like she's daring someone to come and steal from her again.
Honey, you don't have to worry about the budget.
Miss Cece's daughter, Alice,
But you promised me to have doves for the wedding.
and her fiancé, Chen, have been fighting over the plans for their wedding.
No doves, no wedding.
She wants the big princess wedding, and he wants something small and tasteful.
Jen and I are fighting again.
About what?
She retreats to her mother's house for some tender, loving care.
Do you want your favorite cup of tea?
Please.
Chamomile? Okay, I'm gonna do it right now for you.
In an attempt to win her back, Chen bakes Alice vanilla cupcakes with sparkles, her favorite, and attaches a love note. The next day, when Chen still hasn't heard from Alice, he arrives on her mother's doorstep. When he finds his thoughtful treat untouched, he gets worried and calls the police. When the police enter the house, they find Miss Cece and her daughter Alice lying in a pool of blood, and they've been brutally and fatally stabbed.
This is Detective Lee. Request for backup. Apparent double homicide.
Women killed in their own home are tragically not all that rare, but throw in a dead mystic and a superstitious culture, and you got yourself a uniquely bizarre mystery.
When detectives examine the crime scene, they discover Miss Cece kneeling in the kitchen. Her body configured into a subservient bow. Her hands and fingers have been manipulated into obscene gestures. Alice has puncture wounds on her body, head, and hands. They've both been stabbed multiple times.
When a killer manipulates the body and poses the victim, you can always read something about the killer from it. In this case, because the victim is bowing and giving the big F-U with her finger, means likely that the killer is mocking the victim. It's a humiliating position, so you can assume that the murderer isn't a BFF.
Next to Miss Cece, detectives find a bloody knife and another on the floor closer to Alice.
A stabbing is a very upfront and personal way of killing. You're in their faces, you're literally causing them pain while watching the life drain out of their eyes. A gun is easier, a gun is tidier, but a knife means I want you to suffer, I want to see your fear, and I want to watch.
When detectives take a closer look at the victims, they get a frightening shock.
In 25 years, I can honestly say I have never seen a victim whose face has been painted white. There's a number of things that painting the face white could symbolize. It could be a ritualistic cult thing, it could be a cultural symbol of some kind, or simply have been done to hide evidence and compromise the crime scene.
When investigators search the house, they discover it's been ransacked from top to bottom. Miss Cece's credit cards, cell phone, and jewelry are missing, suggesting robbery as a motive.
So this is obviously a robbery, but that's not all it is. I mean, you've got to account for the way the victims were murdered and the fact that these killers took time to paint their victims' faces and hands, as well as position them. It can be difficult to unlock the meaning behind this type of symbolism because it can be so personal to the killer. The challenge for an investigator is not to get too focused on any one unusual detail that they don't follow up on other leads. And the fact that there was a robbery on top of all this intricate posing, that's a lead in and of itself.
Police also find a small bloody footprint on a tea towel on the floor.
For all you detectives in training out there, listen up. Here's what's good and bad about a footprint. Good point is, if you catch the killer, then you can match the print to the foot. But here's the bad part. We don't keep records of footprints. So you have to catch the killer first. And the footprint won't lead you to him.
Just tell me about this fight that you and Alice had.
It was stupid.
Detectives immediately set their sights on Chen, the boyfriend.
Every time we fight, we find a way to make up.
Where were you on the day that she got murdered?
I was working that day. You can ask my boss. We had this project.
When they check his alibi, it's airtight. But he does drop a tiny nugget of hope in the detective's lap.
There was a handyman. He had access to the house. Look into the handyman.
Detectives find the handyman clearing out his tools in Miss Cece's garage and immediately bring him in.
Why don't you show me your hands?
My hands?
Yeah, hold them up, please.
So this guy goes to the top of the suspect list. White paint at the crime scene, white paint on that guy's hands. Check.
What did you have against Miss Cece?
Miss Cece, nothing.
They're sure they have their man, but when they test the paint from the handyman, it doesn't match the paint used in the crime.
I work almost every week for her. She's a lovely lady.
And when his alibi checks out, he's released. As they exhaust all leads, detectives turn to Miss Cece's own community for help. A neighbor reports seeing a man and a woman visiting the house on the day of the murder and gives a detailed description of the pair.
It's no secret Miss Cece angered a lot of people with her flashy ways, but as distasteful as they found her nouveau riche attitude, they needed her. Her followers truly believe she can help direct their lives in a positive way. So why would somebody bite the hand that feeds them?
Investigators get no tips after releasing the drawings of the mysterious man and woman to the public. And with no suspects on the horizon, the case goes cold. Until a surprising discovery heats things up again. Investigators discover phone calls being made from the victim's phone.
So either Miss Cece has come back from the dead and is making calls, which in my experience is rare, or the killer has just made their first mistake.
Detectives discover that not only do phone calls appear on Miss Cece's cell phone, but purchases are being made on her credit card. Clothes, electronics, and meals at expensive restaurants, totaling a whopping $63,000. The detective checks store surveillance cameras and hit pay dirt when they see a woman with a strong resemblance to the sketch of the supposed killer ringing up a large bill.
Okay, let's stop here for a minute just to enjoy this. Just moments before, investigators had no clue who the murderer was. The killer was likely going to get away with it. And then this woman decides not only to use the dead woman's phone, but hey, while we're at it, let's charge thousands of dollars to her credit card.
Police discover that Miss Cece's credit card was also used to purchase 4 plane tickets. But this time, our mystery woman isn't so careful. Turns out she's none other than Miss Cece's best client, Tracy. Tracy is put under surveillance, and following yet another shopping spree courtesy of Miss Cece's stolen credit cards, police confront her. They find $4,000 in cash, as well as ID and credit cards belonging to Miss Cece. When questioned, Tracy can't get her story straight. They arrest her and bring her down to the station. While Tracy is in custody, police search her apartment in Virginia and find missing items from Miss Cece's house, along with a bizarre calendar entry. Brutal act written on the day of the murder.
It's like she left little breadcrumbs for the police so they could follow her into the woods. Just in case you had any doubt it was me, here's another little crumb for you, and another, and whoops, here's another.
The big break in the case comes when they find a boarding pass for a flight leaving Chicago. The boarding pass is dated one day after the murder, but the name on the pass isn't Tracy's. It's a name detectives haven't heard before, Roger Wang. Detectives learn Roger is a married father of 5 who lives in the same town as Tracy. Roger's wife worked at Tracy's boutique, and the two families became friends.
So why are you in the area?
I was not in the area. I was not even there.
Roger is brought in for questioning.
Well, we have people saying that they saw you and Tracy walking around the area.
Oh, well, yeah, Tracy told me about she's a great fortune teller.
Where he tries to explain what he was doing in Chicago at the time of the murder.
Your DNA is scattered around Miss Cece's shop.
Well, I was...
Worn down by police, he finally starts talking and confesses to the murders.
We're there to rob her, and when we got there, Tracy, she went crazy.
But names Tracy as the mastermind.
What did Tracy have over this guy that he would give up his whole life to help her? I mean, think about it. He doesn't even know Miss Cece, but he agrees to fly across the country with Tracy to murder her in cold blood. I mean, she must have had an immense amount of control over him. The question is, why?
DNA from the knives links Roger to the crime, but there's little forensic evidence against Tracy.
So why'd you kill her?
Detectives confront her with Roger's allegations.
I didn't kill her.
Tracy claims she was never at Miss Cece's house and that Roger did the deed all by himself.
Okay, this is a tough spot to be in if you're an investigator. You really want her to confess because you don't have any physical evidence against her yet, and the DA is going to want things like that from you to ensure a conviction.
Where's your proof?
But the problem is this killer is so smug, they're never gonna give you one.
Well, we do have a neighbor that's given us a pretty detailed description of 2 people entering her place.
Detectives try and break her by telling her Miss Cece's neighbor saw Roger and Tracy enter the house that day. And this time, they take her prints, hands, and feet. Tracy's footprint matches the footprint left on the bloody tea towel found at the crime scene, and she's charged with first-degree murder.
Shoes off.
If I were a criminal, my first rule would be, don't wear high heels to a murder. The second rule would be, don't take them off. But hey, I'm no criminal, and I prefer wedges to heels.
You gotta give me a deal here because I can tell you everything.
Roger agrees to testify against Tracy in exchange for a lighter sentence. He tells detectives that he and Tracy flew across the country from Richmond to Chicago. They went to Miss Cece's house under the pretense of having their fortunes told.
How are you?
Cece, I'm all over the place. I just need your help again.
Okay, yeah, just relax.
They were surprised that Alice was there.
Okay, I'll make a cup of tea for you and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it, all right? Okay, make yourself at home.
Suddenly, Tracy spirals into a blind rage. She starts stabbing Miss Cece and instructs Roger to kill Alice. In the heat of the moment, Roger does what she tells him. He stabs Alice repeatedly. Once mother and daughter are dead, Tracy and Roger drive to a department store and buy a gallon of white paint. They return to the scene of the crime and paint the hands and faces of the victims white. Then they ransack the house looking for cash. When they don't find any, they steal Miss Cece's phone and credit cards.
This was such a vicious murder, from the way they were stabbed to the horrible way the bodies were configured. And you gotta ask yourself, was this really just about money? Or was there something else motivating the madness?
A year before the brutal murder of Miss Cece and her daughter Alice, Tracy moved across the country on Miss Cece's recommendation that both her love life and business would flourish. Tracy made the move, opened a new fashion boutique, and began the daunting task of wooing her lover.
No,
What do you mean?
I can't.
But Leigh had moved on and didn't take the bait.
Sure?
You're crazy.
Interesting way to try to convince somebody to get back together with you. Threaten them with a hammer. Good idea. But Tracy's obviously suffering some kind of anger management issue, to put it mildly. She's so focused on getting what she wants that she can't see that her actions are irrational and only causing her more problems.
Her new business is hemorrhaging money, and she can't make her car payments. At a loss, Tracy calls the one person she counts on to fix the situation.
Hi, Miss Cece. It's Tracy.
What Miss Cece says next probably foretold her own fortune.
Sorry, Tracy, but Leigh doesn't love you. You have to move on.
Tracy is conditioned to believe that what she wants, she gon' get. And if she doesn't get it, then somebody has to pay.
She told me to pack up. She told me to leave my husband. Look what happens. My life is ruined.
She tells Roger that she's been cheated.
Love spell is supposed to work.
Miss Cece promised her a life of success.
We need to get my money
Instead, she finds herself alone and broke.
Come on, she can't get away with this. You're on my side, aren't you?
Because of this, Miss Cece deserves to die.
And then why did you kill Alice?
When detectives ask why Roger killed Alice, Miss Cece's daughter, Roger simply replies, collateral damage.
In my opinion, this woman is a sociopath, someone with zero empathy. When somebody gets in her way, she simply discards them. End of story.
And why did Roger agree to help? A man who's married with 5 children and has everything to lose.
Hey, listen, I have a friend, Marcia. Remember her? I can set you up with her.
Because he was extremely unhappy in his relationship, and Tracy promised to help him find potential lovers.
You like that, right? Yeah, come on, help me.
The two most insane motives ever to snuff out somebody's life. But here's the thing about senseless murders. Really, there are none. You ever heard that term, there's method to the madness? Yeah, because even though something seems senseless to you and me, to her, it makes perfect sense.
For his part in the crime, Roger is sentenced to 25 years. Tracy, the mastermind, receives a sentence of life without parole.
Tracy so believed in the power of this woman that when her life didn't turn out the way her fortune teller had promised, she felt it was well within her rights to kill her.
Even with Tracy behind bars, one mystery remains. Why did she choose to paint the face and hands of her victims white?
One theory that makes sense to me is that by having their faces covered, Tracy ensured that the two would never be reincarnated, a very important goal in their culture. Miss Cece and Alice's souls would fail to unite with their bodies in the afterworld because their faces would be unrecognizable because of the white paint. She didn't just kill them once. She essentially killed them forever.